welcome back to Ashart Books. So today I'm going to be doing kind of my February wrap up. I'm going to do it a little bit differently today, and that's for two reasons. Number one, it's already like a week into March. I just got a little bit behind, and reason number two is that a few of the books that I read in February, I actually am already going to talk about in different videos. So a couple of the books I read last month, I am going to be talking about in an upcoming Read Bliss video. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And I will try and let you guys know when it goes up, but it'll be sometime in March. And then I also already talked about 99% Mine, which I read last month in Jen from Jen Talks Audiobooks live show about it. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that book, head on over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pick my top 4 books other than those that I just loved this month and kind of just chat with you guys about them, let you know some of my thoughts. Just kind of thought this would be a little bit of a different way to do a wrap up. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stick with it, but for this month, I think it's gonna work. First favorite for February was Work in Progress by Stacey Hart. I think I did mention this in one video before, but I really enjoyed this. This was such a good book. I had never read anything by Stacey before, and I definitely want to check out the entire first 2 books in the series. So this book follows Thomas Bain, who is a writer, and he's kind of known as like the bad boy, I guess, of like the writing world. And it also follows Amelia, who is a shy, kind of socially awkward. She has a really hard time with like social situations, dating and things like that, but she's like a book blogger, and she's recently been hired by, I think it's the Times, but it's one of the papers, to write for them. So they sent her to this like book signing to meet Thomas Bain, and she thinks he's gonna hate her because she's been very critical of his work, particularly the romances in his works, but it's actually the opposite, and he thinks that she has really given him something to work off of with her critiques, and so he wants her to be his writing partner, and kind of just give him feedback on what he's doing kind of wrong and help him kind of create a better book in general, but especially the love story part. So these two could not be more different. He's always been kind of known as like the womanizer, and there's a lot more to him than that you find out, but that's like how he's portrayed. And then you have Amelia, who is very quiet, very shy, at least until you get to know her, very bookish, and she definitely has reasons for that as well. I love this book so much. Thomas Bain is swoon worthy. He was such a sweetheart, and he looked out for her. This has definitely got a lot of different tropes in it that I liked. One being kind of like a friends to lovers, because they definitely were friends first. There's another trope in here I'm not going to completely mention because I don't want to spoil it, and I think it kind of gives it away, but I just love this. Needless to say, this one as well as the other 3 are all 5 stars. So if you haven't read this and you want something that's really fun but also just really interesting to kind of hear more about like the writing world and blogging world, I definitely recommend Work in Progress by Stacey Hart. Second favorite for February was Soul in Darkness by Wendy Higgins. You probably can't see it on here, but the cover for this is gorgeous. I kind of want to order it in paperback just because it's so pretty. But this book is really interesting. So I love Wendy Higgins. Her Sweet Evil trilogy is one of my absolute favorites for YA. So I was so excited because this is actually a kind of a new adult standalone. I'm like, yes, standalone. Don't have to keep reading. Not that I don't want to, because it was so stinking good. So this is actually a retelling of the Psyche and Cupid kind of mythology. And it's interesting because going in, it wasn't one I knew that well, but I've been told and kind of read from other people's reviews that it is a pretty like good retelling in the sense of like it's pretty accurate. So for me, I didn't exactly know where it was going because I wasn't too familiar with it, but I just loved it. So you have Psyche, who is this beautiful princess, and she's kind of been blessed with this beauty, and like she's known all over the kind of area as being this gorgeous person. But for her, it's almost more of a curse because she feels like no one really gets to know her. They just want her because she's beautiful, and they don't really know who she actually is. So one day she meets this guy who she doesn't know who it is in the market, and she's covered so they can't see her face. And she just feels like an instant like, oh my gosh, like I need to know this person. Not exactly like lust, but like they just kind of went together, and she instantly liked him because he was listening to what she said and not just looking at her. So if you know the story, basically it's Cupid, and she doesn't know that, but Cupid's mother gives him this challenge because she does not like the fact that he has fallen in love with this mortal. So basically, Cupid has to get her to fall in love with him without seeing him. And on top of that, she thinks that he is this hideous creature that has been forced to marry. And so she can't see him. He keeps himself kind of like glamored, but they basically have to fall in love with each other without without her seeing him, and fall in love with who they really are. And I just love the message this book had, you know, that you can find like the inner beauty and fall in love with who the person actually is, not just what they look like. And I just loved it. The love story was just beautiful. The love story was so, so good. It was stunning. And I like the fact that it was honestly, most of the book was just those two characters. And it was almost a very character-driven book. And broke my heart, put it back together again. I loved it. Loved it. Definitely recommend. This favorite is kind of a trilogy, and that is the Fallen Academy series by Leah Stone. This is I guess I'd call it new adult, probably, series. And I heard about this from a friend on Instagram, and it just sounded right up my alley, so I had to check it out. It's 3 books. The 4th one's coming out soonish, I think like May, and it was so addicting, guys. I read 3 books in 3 days. It was that addicting, like, you know, the kind that you just can't put down. So this series, if you like things like Vampire Academy, where there's like a schooling aspect, definitely check this series out because it has a lot of those kind of ideas. This follows a world where there was this war. There was this war that kind of fell from heaven into earth. I think it was about 10 years ago, and because of that, all of these mortal people have these powers that were passed down from angels and demons. So when you're 18, you get kind of like a sorting hat. You get like stuff put on you, and you're either sent to the good side to go to Fallen Academy, or you have demonic powers and you go to their school. So our main character is Brielle, and she's always thought she's going to go to the demonic side because of a deal her mom made. Turns out she actually is super, super powerful and is for the fallen side, but it's a lot more complicated than that. I just loved this book. So it kind of starts off from there. She goes to Fallen Academy and all the stuff happens. Her kind of trainer is Lincoln, and he is the grumpiest, broodiest. I mean, the first time that she meets him, she throws a coffee at the back of his car as he's driving away. I mean, if that's not like a cute, meet cute, I don't know what is. So over the 3 books, you just see such character growth and development, and I just couldn't stop reading. So if you want something that's kind of fantastical, but set in this world, that's very kind of like an urban fantasy thing, I definitely recommend the Fallen Academy series. I am like really ready for book 4. Like, I'm ready. So definitely love that one as well. My last favorite for February was Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. You knew I had to talk about this book. It came out in February. I read it. I loved it. This was one of my favorites in the Ravenel series so far. So this book follows Phoebe, who is Sebastian and Evie's daughter, from the Wallflower series, if you've read that. And I'd say you can definitely read this as a standalone. You just may not pick up on like all of the nuances, but you definitely could. So Phoebe is a widow, a fairly young widow, and she kind of knew her husband was going to die. He was kind of a sickly child, and so she kind of knew it was coming, but it's still obviously very tough for her. She's trying to put her kind of life back together. She has 2 very small boys, and she is going to this wedding with her family that she's not very excited about because, you know, she feels like everyone's kind of staring and whispering about her. And then our male lead is West, who is, we met him like 4 books ago, and he was definitely like the rake, the womanizer. He was drinking, he was gambling, he was doing all that stuff. But in the 4 books, you kind of have seen him really step up to the plate, and he's taking care of the family estate, and he's kind of learned all of this stuff about farming and running the estate. He's very knowledgeable and has really become a great person. So Phoebe kind of has some issues with the farm or the estate her son's going to inherit. She doesn't want to just let a man run it. She really wants to get involved and kind of know what's happening. So a lot of this was about them kind of working together and then obviously falling in love at the same time. Her boys were adorable, and the way that West really took on being kind of like a father figure for them was so stinking cute. I loved it. This book also had a lot of new kind of inventions because industrialization was really starting at this time period in the late 1800s. So I found that really, really interesting as well, just to see how that was kind of worked into the story. There's also a very adorable cat named Galoshes. So If you love cats, this story is for you as well. And now I really want to name a future cat Galoshes, so really loved it. And Sebastian and Evie are in here quite a bit, so it was pretty adorable. Alright guys, so those are my top reads from February. Definitely let me know down below what you guys are reading, or if you've read any of these. I would love to chat about it down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!